All right, so today I am going to walk you through nonfiction signposts, and they are used whenever you are working with a nonfiction piece. Most of the time that's an article, especially in school. You will use these for articles that are given to you. So there are only 5, and I want to briefly just kind of go through these. I also want you to know that on my website, aka my gross Google Classroom, you will find in both places, depending if my website is blocked for you or not, you will find videos of each of these, just for reinforcement, extra practice, maybe review. Out of the 5, you might find one confusing and you want to go and watch that little YouTube video that was made. You don't have to watch all 5 of them. They're only a minute long, but it does do a really nice job of explaining each one. So know that you have that as a go-to if need be. All right, so the first one is extreme or absolute language. And you know how we usually abbreviate these within the text, so we probably would do this one with an EL. Extreme language just basically means that the author is using specific language to prove a point. Words like exactly, always, specifically, never. They put a lot of stress on specific words that add clarification and great value to what you're reading. The next one we'll talk about is quoted words, and this is when an author refers to another voice, another speaker in the article. So if I was writing an article about the civil rights movement and I had a professor that teaches civil rights from Harvard, I might quote what he said about the subject to which I was writing. So when you quote another author, you place great value on their words, and it usually adds to the credibility of what it is that you're trying to teach. And numbers and statistics, just kind of like what it sounds like. You know, sometimes when you read an article, you have numbers that you'll find in the nonfiction article, and these numbers usually indicate value, the amount. Sometimes the amount might make a very big impression because it's emphasized and it's kind of shocking. The amount could help you better understand what's being compared and contrast. So whenever you see a number, the number can be spelled out. It could be numbers like several or few. It doesn't have to be a specific number, or just research, stats and numbers. So all of these are important for you to recognize. Word gaps. This is when when you annotate an article with a teacher, you circle the words that you don't know. So that's what word gaps are. You're looking for words that you are not familiar with, or a phrase. It doesn't have to be just a word. It could be a phrase. Sometimes when you read an article about science and they might have a science term that's being used within the article, and it's not that you don't have a high vocabulary, you're just not used to this word because it's subject related and you're not familiar with that study. So it is also important sometimes for you to recognize when you're reading an article that they might be using words that you just don't have the background like the author did, and you need to figure out what they mean in order to bring better understanding to the piece. Contrasts and contradictions, that is simply something that you were unaware of, something that stood out to you that you didn't know beforehand. It's when the author shows you the difference between what you know and then basically what is happening in the text. You might read something that takes you by surprise. So that would be a contrast from what you're used to. You did not realize that that was about to be presented to you, and it was new information, and it took you by surprise. The difference between 2 or more things in a text usually will show the difference in that. All right, these are the materials that you are going to need to have today. Have the highlighters handy. You'll need a pen or a pencil to write with. You're going to need the story Hard at Work. This is in the purple basket. You're going to need the, so you can see there's the story. You're going to need the nonfiction post chart. All right, so you have the highlighters handy, pen to write with. And then there's some cardstock. It's underneath the purple basket. It's divided in half. But I want you to take that paper and I want you to fold it vertically, and I'll help you work with that in this video as well. So just make sure that you pause the video right now and you get all of these supplies handy before we dive into what nonfiction signposts are. I'm gonna practice with you and kind of help you find them in the article Hard at Work, just so you get familiar with them before you're set off on your own to do it. Go ahead and take your cardstock sheet that looks like this and fold it vertically, like I had said before. Fold it vertically so that you can have it kind of like flipping it back and forth. So fold it hot dog, like vertically. Okay, once you do that, you are going to get some highlighters, and you can kind of just maybe assign the blue. Let's go over this one first. The Contrast and Contradictions. Use your blue highlighter and just kind of outline maybe the sign or something. And I highlighted the anchor question over here. Just as you had anchor questions with your fiction, you'll have those for this as well. So the anchor question for Contrast and Contradictions is going to be, what is the difference and why does it matter? You guys are gonna love what I did for you. I'm amazing. I gave you little bullets of starters on how to begin the anchor question. So sometimes getting started with your answer is the hardest part. So I have given you choices here with fill in the blanks with your answers. So if you go to answer an anchor question and you don't know how to answer the anchor question, which I have highlighted in blue, use one of my starters down here to help you get started, okay? We will abbreviate this one CC, so you might want to write CC off to the side of yours. All right, and we'll move on down to the next one. You can grab the orange highlighter and highlight the sign for extreme language that we will abbreviate EL. Take your orange highlighter, excuse me, highlight the sign, highlight the anchor question, highlight the bullets that I have, as you can see, to help you get started answering this anchor question for extreme language. Then you can go ahead, and if I'm going too fast, you pause the video. That's why these are so nice, because you get to go at your pace. So if I'm going too quickly, just pause the video until you get done with the orange. All right, go ahead and grab the green highlighter and highlight numbers and stats. Highlight the anchor question over here, green, and your starters that I've given you. Whoops. When you are done with the green, we will go ahead and move on to pink highlighter. Highlight the sign, the anchor question, and the bullets that are going to help you get started when it's time for you to answer this anchor question. And then, of course, the last one, grab yellow, highlight the word gaps yellow, and the anchor questions over here in yellow. And then you will be set. Okay, so now we have our cheat sheet, if you will. I'll probably just call this, and you can write cheat sheet up here if you want to remember what it's called. All right, so that is your cheat sheet. Okay, so now that we have this prepared, let's go ahead and dive into the story, Hard at Work. And as you can see, so conveniently for you, I've showed you where the signposts are. Just as in the beginning with fiction signposts, I found it helpful for me to show you where they were, and then you identify them and answer the anchor question on your paper, on your chart. The chart looks like this, so we will get into that later, but that's what I'm referring to when I say your answer sheet, the chart. All right, so this story is called Hard at Work. It's obviously nonfiction, so you know it's going to be a true story. It was written by the author Time for Kids, like Time Magazine, Time for Kids. And let's go ahead and begin it. 10-year-old Wilbur Carreno is less than 4 feet tall and weighs only 50 pounds. He is small for his age. That's exactly what makes him good at his job. Wilbur spends his afternoons climbing banana trees 4 times his height. He expertly ties the heavy stalks of the bananas so that the trees won't droop from the weight of the fruit. I've been working since I was 8, he told TFK. I finish school at noon and then go to the field. In Wilbur's poor country, Ecuador, 1 in every 4 children is working. An estimated 69,000 kids toil away at the vast banana plantations along the country's coast. Ecuador is the world's largest banana exporter. Kids working in the industry are exposed to harmful chemicals, pull loads twice their weight, and use sharp, heavy knives. Do kids belong on the job? Child labor is certainly not limited to Ecuador. In the United Nations, estimated that 250 million kids around the world are forced to work. Many countries don't have laws limiting kids' work. A concerned group called Human Rights Watch conducted a study of Ecuador's banana plantations last April. They found that most children begin working on plantations around 10. Their average workday lasts 12 hours. By age 14, 6 out of 10 no longer attend school. You guys complain about going to school. These kids don't get to go to school because they have to go to work. They're forced. Many families face the difficult choice of either putting food on their tables or sending their kids to school. So families are so desperate for money that they need their child to work as well as them in order for them to be able to make money. The family of Alejandro, 12, struggles with that choice. Alejandro has had to work beside his father, Eduardo Sinche, on a plantation. I don't want my kids to work, says Sinche. I want them in school, but we have few options. Sinche has 9 children and earns as little as $27 a week. It isn't enough for food, let alone clothes or transportation. All right, go ahead and flip it over. Sinche's pay is typical in Ecuador. The average banana worker earns just $6 a day. One reason pay is so low is that the Ecuadorians are not allowed to form work groups called unions. In countries like Costa Rica, where laws allow unions, some banana workers earn $11 a day. Such countries have fewer child workers because better pay means parents can afford to keep their kids in school. Ecuador's big banana companies have begun to do something about child labor. Last year, they signed an agreement to not hire kids younger than 15 and to protect young workers from chemicals. We need to eliminate child labor, says Jorge Illingworth of Ecuador's Banana Exporters Association. But small plantations did not sign the agreement, and, he says, they employ 70% of the kids. Banning child labor is a start, but it doesn't really help families like the Sinches. Now that Alejandro can't work, his family suffers more. The answer, most believe, is better pay for Ecuador's adult workers. So if you pay the parents more, they wouldn't have to make their children work. For that to happen, the United States shoppers, that's us, would have to put up with higher banana prices or stop buying Ecuador's bananas to make their point. I, for one, will not be buying bananas made in Ecuador anymore. Hulimaro Tuma fights to help Ecuador's workers. If we could raise awareness, he says, we could raise wages and invest in education for our children. So honestly, awareness is obviously the key. Before I read this article to make this lesson, I was unaware that the bananas that come from Ecuador were gathered by children workers. I am aware that there are children workers being forced to work in the world, but I did not know that when I go to buy my bananas, I need to look more closely at the sticker and make sure I don't buy the ones from Ecuador. So now that I'm aware, I can help this fight. So I do strongly agree with this comment made by this person because now I am aware of the situation, whereas before I was not. All right, so let's go back to the beginning, flip your article back over. What you're going to do today is you're going to go through here and you're going to obviously use your cheat sheet, okay? This would be really hard to do if not, but you're going to use your cheat sheet and see if you can figure out, and remember, we're using the initials, okay? So these are the initials, the abbreviations, if you will. You're going to see if you can figure out which one belongs on the ones that I've identified for you. So there's one over here, one here. Wherever you see a dotted line, basically, is where you're going to put one of these initials. So you're going to do the best that you can using your cheat sheet for help. If at any point, as you're trying to decipher which one goes where, and you're like, oh, I don't really understand what contrast and contradictions, I just don't get that one, then please go to my Google Classroom or my website, depending on which one works for you, and use the signpost, the nonfiction signpost videos for help. Those have been placed in classwork in my Google Classroom. If you're on my website, there's a tab that says signpost help. So either place, you can watch a video that will help you, you're kind of trying to figure out, have a better understanding of these signposts for the first time. So maybe those videos will help you. After you've decided which answer goes where on these lines, you then can start to begin to fill out this chart. Make sure that you pay special attention to the information that goes here. You will find all of this information on the article. I've told you that, Times for Kids obviously is the publication. There is a date. If you look on the back of the article at the very bottom, you'll see a copyright date. So I promise you, all the information that you need for this area is on the nonfiction article. So you'll begin filling this section out. You then will move on down, and I want you to notice that there are only 5 spots for you today, which means with a highlighter, please highlight this part of the direction right here. You do not use the same signpost more than twice. So if you want with me right now, go ahead and fill in these so that you don't use them more than once. So go ahead. The first one will be one example that you took from the article that shows contrast and contradictions. I realize that you might have more than one CC on your answer, but you are picking the best one that you want me to grade because I'm grading the chart. So then go ahead and pick one. You might have only found one EL on the article, and that one would go here. Then you're going to have a number and stat answer here, which there are several in this article. Then you're going to have a QW, and then you'll have a word gap. Okay? So one of each that you want me to grade from your answers on the article. Make sure your name is on this because this will be collected, and make sure your name is also, make sure your name is also on the chart. So then you're going to move over here and you'll put the example. So whichever, probably exactly what I have underlined, to be honest with you. Whatever is underlined will go on this part of your answer sheet. So whatever is underlined goes here. Then remember, when you answer the anchor question, if at any time the anchor question is hard for you to answer, I want you to remember that the anchor question is highlighted, but use one of these bullets, one of the bullets, to help you get started for this area. Okay, so this is where you'll use the bullets to help you answer the anchor questions. Okay, so that is your assignment today, to work on this chart and completing it. But before you can work on the chart, you have to go through the article and see if you can guess, see if you can guess what goes here. And remember, these I'm just showing you. Like I'm not sure which one goes here, but you can definitely use your cheat sheet to help you decide which abbreviation for which signpost goes where. After you have that done, you'll then go to the chart and pick your 5 best answers and do the anchor questions. All right, if you have any questions while you work on this, since this is brand new, definitely come and ask me.